Hello and welcome to our TED Talk. This TED Talk will be about Affinity Purification by yours truly, Vap.
Affinity purification, also known as affinity chromatography, is a sample purification technique primarily used for proteins. It is a method of separating a mixture of protein or nucleic acid molecules by specific interactions of those molecules with a component called a ligand, which is immobilized onto a support, usually a bead. If a solution of proteins, for example, is passed through the column, one of the proteins binds to the ligand on the basis of specificity and high affinity, meaning they fit together like a lock and key, or Bonnie and Clyde, whatever hooks your fish. The other proteins in the solution wash through the column because they are not able to bind to the ligand. Materials needed for affinity chromatography are the soluble lysate fraction, the Profinity iMac nickel-charged resin slurry, the empty micro-biospin column with cap and yellow tip closure, microcentrifuge and microcentrifuge tubes, a heat block, a rocking platform, distilled water, elution buffer, wash buffer, lamellae dye, and adjustable micropipettes with their tips. Preparation of the affinity column must first take place. Snap off the bottom tab of the empty microbiospin column, label the column with your initials, and place it in a clean 2 milliliter microcentrifuge tube. Thoroughly resuspend the resin and pipette 200 microliters of the slurry into the column. Centrifuge for 2 minutes at 1000 Gs to remove the packing. Discard the buffer that was collected in the 2 milliliter microcentrifuge. Place the column back into the 2 milliliter microcentrifuge. Wash the column by gently adding 200 microliter of distilled water to the top of the column, taking care not to disturb the resin. Centrifuge for 2 minutes at 1000 Gs to remove the water. Discard the water that was collected in the microcentrifuge tube and place the column back into the 2 milliliter microcentrifuge tube. Equilibrate the column by gently adding 500 microliters of equilibration buffer and centrifuge for 2 minutes at 1000 Gs to remove the equilibration buffer. Discard the buffer and the 2 milliliter microcentrifuge tube. Do not discard the column. Sample binding to the column will happen next. Attach the yellow tip for closure of the column. Add up to 600 microliters of the soluble fraction of lysate to the column. Then put on the clear top cap. Gently mix for 20 minutes. Label a 2 milliliter microcentrifuge tube flow through. Remove yellow tip closure and place in 2 milliliter microcentrifuge tube. Remove clear top cap. Centrifuge for 2 minutes at 1000 G. Set aside the flow through. Washing the column. Label a 2 milliliter microcentrifuge wash fraction. Place column in tube. Add 600 microliter of wash buffer to the column. Centrifuge for 2 minutes at 1000 G. Set aside the wash fraction. Dilution of GST, PHFR, his protein from the column. Label a 2 milliliter microcentrifuge eluate. Place column in tube. Add 400 microliters of elution buffer to column. Centrifuge for 2 minutes at 1000 G. Set aside eluate. Discard the column. Keep the eluate fraction. Next is desalting of the protein to remove imidazole. Prepare desalting column by inverting sharply several times to resuspend gel. Snap off bottom tab and place in 2 milliliter microcentrifuge tube. Remove green top cap. If the column does not begin to flow, push the cap back on the column and then remove it again to start the flow. Allow excess packing buffer to drain by gravity to top of resin bed. Then place column in clean 2 milliliter tube. Centrifuge for 2 minutes at 1000 G. Discard remaining packing buffer and collection tube. Label new 2 milliliter tube desalted eluate. Carefully apply 75 microliters of eluate fraction directly to the center of column. Be careful not to touch resin with pipette. Centrifuge for 4 minutes at 1000 G. Repeat addition of 75 microliters of eluate fraction to column and centrifugation. After second spin, discard the column. You should now have 150 microliters of desalted eluate.
Hi, it's me again. I'm here to talk about the polyhistidine tag. The affinity chromatography methodology depends on the presence of a specific tag on the recombinant protein, such as a polyhistidine affinity tag. Polyhistidine tag proteins bind to nickel groups that have been attached to the resin, known as immobilized metal affinity chromatography, or IMAC. The histidine groups of the polyhistidine tag bind to the nickel groups on the resin. The protein of interest can be eluded by the addition of imidazole, which competes for nickel binding sites. In order to analyze the affinity purification results to see if your desalted eluate sample was really your purified protein sample, you would have to perform an SDS page. The SDS page samples would be the flow-through, the wash, the eluate, and the desalted eluate samples. The flow-through should not have any protein in it. The wash would have protein in it, elution would have protein in it, and the desalted eluate would hopefully have the most protein present, since it should be your purified protein.
In conclusion, affinity chromatography is great as it is selective for separating a specific bond between the ligand and its partner. It is specific in its conditions pertaining to the protein of interest. The degree of purification can be high, which is good when separating a protein. It has the advantage of utilizing a protein's biological structure or function for purification. As a result, purifications that would otherwise be time-consuming and complicated are easy to do with affinity chromatography. This all equals to be great lab protocol to use when purifying a protein.
So next time, be a cool scientist and do affinity chromatography. And on that note, thank you for paying attention to this informative TED Talk brought to you by VAP. That's all, folks.